Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laron, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaron.com. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to episode 66. So in this week's episode, I'm taking the opportunity to talk about a few random things that are kind of on my mind. So last week I talked a little bit about how I was going to do a new intro. That did not happen. And the reason it did not happen was because I have been very busy recording YouTube videos. So I talked in the last week's episode about how my studio is done. And I've been working on the studio and got it to where I need it. I had to figure out how to hang this image that's kind of on the wall behind me. It still doesn't look very good, but it looks good enough for the camera. So I'm not going to be too worried about it right now. And I've just been recording videos every day. So I've been waking up at 4:30 in the morning and coming downstairs and shooting one video and editing one video every day. And I'm going to be doing that until I am done with at least 1 month's worth of videos, because around the 4th of July, my daughter is going to have a procedure, and so I am not going to be able to do things for at least a few days, maybe a week or two. So this has been great. It's been really cool to come down in here and do videos. In fact, the greatest thing about it is that I can wake up, do makeup, get dressed, come downstairs, and the set is just waiting for me. Like, I don't have to tear things down and set things up. And it's actually amazing how much energy it takes to set up and tear down. I have so much more energy when I'm done shooting my videos because I'm able to leave everything the way it is, which is really, really cool. And if I sound like I have less energy than normal, it's because I was up probably until midnight last night editing my most recent video, which is going to be a really cool video on the Service BookBrush. So if any of you have heard of the Service BookBrush, or if you haven't heard of it, it's a service for writers that is almost like a Canva substitute. So Canva is a free website that allows you to create all sorts of graphics. You could do a book cover there if you wanted to. You could do ad images there. I mean, you name it. You could do it for your blog. I mean, there's all sorts of really cool things that Canva can do, but Canva is not really specifically created for writers. BookBrush is like Canva, but for writers. And it allows you to do some really, really interesting stuff in just a couple of clicks, like create 3D book covers. You can create Facebook ads, and you can even create book trailers for your video featuring your book, or for your book featuring your book. Wow, did I butcher that sentence? I told you, I'm running on less energy. But you can do all sorts of really cool stuff with BookBrush. And so they reached out to me and offered to sponsor a video on the channel. And so I just took me a little bit longer than usual to get a sponsored video done. So, but it's been a great experience, and it goes live next Friday. So yeah, a lot of things going on, and I'm actually in the middle of my first author level up season, which is how to write engaging main characters. So I'm smack dab in the middle of it, and the reception has been pretty positive so far. There's only been 2 or 3 videos released right now. I've recorded more, but I've released a couple of videos just because I've been out a little while, and it's kind of nice to get back into the swing of things. And video editing is interesting. So I'm doing my own video editing temporarily again, just so that I can understand how the studio works and what some of the nuances are and what some of the things that I need to be doing are, so that when I do hand this task back to an editor here in a few months or around the end of the year, I can give them better direction and find ways to automate and streamline things, which ultimately saves me money and which ultimately saves them time. So, but yeah, YouTube is going great. I am just super excited. You forget how much you love something when you've been away from it. And I really, really love doing video, and I really, really love doing content. It's just my thing. There's some people they just like to build stuff. When you call a contractor to your house and you say, hey, I'm curious about what this would cost. Well, of course they're going to quote you something because they love to build stuff, right? Even if they don't necessarily need to, that's just what they love to do. And I'm like that with creating content, whether it's writing or whether it's video. I just love to create content and take nothing and turn it into something I think is really, really fascinating. So as far as writing goes, I did get the edits for the Indie Writers Dictionary or Indie Writers Encyclopedia back from my editor, and it went great. The process went very smooth. My editor actually focused more on the usability of the book because I told her that was my primary concern. So with the ebook, it's going to have linked entries to where it'll have the entry, and then on the bottom, it'll say see X term or C related terms. And so you can actually, in the ebook version, tap on those terms if you're reading it on your phone or on a Kindle. And you can tap on those terms and it'll actually take you to that term. So it's really, really cool. And there's a lot of internal links. And so one of the things that she was helping me with was saying, hey, should this be linked, or maybe you should consider linking to this. And so she did all of that in addition to a lot of the typo work. So it was a very slow going process to get through all of her edits and suggestions. But I think that they ultimately made the book far better than it was. So I am very excited about that. Now, the only hang up, so the ebook version is done. It's done. It's ready to go. But I don't like to release the ebook version first. I always do simultaneous releases with ebook and print. So I'm formatting the print version as we speak, and I've come across a few issues with the print version that I'm going to have to think through. So I'm using Vellum, which is an application to format your books, but it's not really built for this type of book. And I'm not. This hasn't proven a concept enough for me to hire a formatter to do the print edition. So I'm just doing some creative things with the print version to make sure that it looks good. And basically I had to build the ebook version with all the links and stuff, and it's very specific. I'm going to have to build the print version again, which, it's a process that takes me about 10 to 15 hours. So, and with all the YouTube shooting and stuff that I've been doing, it's probably not going to be until this weekend until I can sit down and just really tear through it. So, but it will be ready here pretty soon. And then once I've got my YouTube in a pretty good position, and once I've got some episodes of the podcast on lock, and once I've got this encyclopedia published, that's when I'll sit down at some point this summer and just attempt to try the audiobook version. So there's a lot of great things going on, and I'm actually in the process. So if that weren't enough, I'm in the process of working on another book called Mental Models for Writers, and I think I talked about that in the last video, and that's going pretty well too. I'm writing maybe 1 or 2 mental models a day, so 1 or 2 chapters a day for this book, but this one's going to be a little bit meatier and it's going to be a little bit longer. So but I'm just trying to prepare things and get a lot of content on lock because my wife has decided to go back to school, which is really exciting. So she just decided, she has a bachelor's degree, but really thought that, accounting was something that she wanted to do. And I think she got halfway toward an accounting degree and decided she wanted to go into business instead. And so she's like, I just really think I want to do that. So supporting her through that, and so she starts classes here pretty soon, and so that's going to be an extra day where I'm going to have to figure things out because I'll be on daddy duty all day. So just trying to get some things on lock before all that good stuff happens. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is the relationship between writing and happiness. And I watched a TED Talk a few weeks ago, and the talk was about how the speaker was diagnosed with cancer and how it made her rethink her entire life. And I think at this point she had a newborn and was happily married and had a great job. And I'll link to this TED Talk in the description. The speaker's name escapes me right now, but she was fantastic. And one of the things that she talks about was that she was happy before her diagnosis, and it seemed like everything had kind of fallen into place for her. She had gotten to a point in her career where things were really good, and she had this diagnosis, and it made her think, why me? Why did this happen to me? And she's at that point, her life was no longer about happiness. It was about bringing joy to other people and bringing joy to herself. And so it got me thinking about the relationship between happiness and joy, and how happiness is something that I think we all strive for. But, at the end of the day, if you really think about it, happiness is very selfish, right? I mean, it's what can you do to be happy? What steps can you do to make sure that you don't have any stress, right? And it was a really interesting way of thinking about it. Happiness as being selfishness. Now, that's not a bad selfishness, right? But it is selfish in and of itself. And when you think about joy and you think about doing things to bring other people joy, I think it takes happiness to be able to do that, right? And so I think about my own career and how things are kind of falling into place for me right now, and things are really good, and I'm in a really good spot. But that could all change overnight. And so I've been thinking about, what is it that I can do to continue to help other people, right? To continue to do things that, will make me successful and do good things for myself and my family, but also find ways to create joy with my readers. And it seems like it's little things. Like it's not anything that needs to be crazy. It's creating an ebook that is highly usable with internal links, right? That people don't expect, that they can use as a reference. It's maybe there's things I can give away. There's certain types of content that I can do that will ultimately help people and help them find the joy in their lives. And I just think that's really important as we live in a very highly politically turmoiled world. I'm not going to open up Pandora's box here, but there's a lot of reasons to be worried and be anxious in today's society. And anything we can do to make ourselves happy and bring joy and recognize that the relationships that we have in life are very important, and that's what ultimately leads to us being satisfied with our lives, I think is a really important thing. So that's just something that I've really been thinking about lately. I'll link to the TED Talk that I'm talking about here in this video. It seems like TED Talks is the only thing I'm talking about lately. It won't be, but I've been watching a lot of them just because I've been doing YouTube videos, and improving my public speaking skills is something that's very important to me. So trying to make sure that I've got an on microphone presence and on camera presence, I think, is all really important. And I just am really loving the exchange of ideas that I'm seeing lately on the internet. So that's all I'm going to give you for this week. I hope everyone's having a fantastic week. And I'll talk to you next week. Peace. Thanks for joining me this week. If you like this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaellaron.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaellaron.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and you want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.